You flip a switch, the lights come on. It feels so simple, right? But behind that simple action is this huge, incredibly complex machine we call the power grid. And for decades, we've basically been running it with one eye closed. So today, we're going to talk about a technology that's finally giving us a crystal clear, high-definition, real-time look at the grid's heartbeat.
Now, I know that sounds a little dramatic, flying blind, but honestly, it's a fair question. Because for something so critical to our daily lives, our power grid has always had this massive blind spot, a gap in information that can lead to some seriously big problems. So what have we been missing this whole time?
All right, so let's break down this blind spot. At its core, the problem has always been about data. I mean, think about it. You have this gigantic network stretching thousands of miles. How do you get a perfect synchronized snapshot of what's happening everywhere at the exact same time? Well, you couldn't. So operators were forced to make huge decisions based on a picture that was incomplete and already a few seconds old. And in a system where a millisecond can make or break things, that kind of delay is not good. And this isn't just some what-if scenario. This is real. Remember the massive blackout in 2003? 50 million people without power. That was a brutal, brutal wake-up call. The post-mortem reports basically said that the grid operators just couldn't see what was happening. They were flying blind as a cascading failure just rolled across the system. It became painfully obvious that the old way of doing things just wasn't going to cut it anymore. So, to really get why this new tech is such a revolution, we first have to understand the old guard. We've got to look at the system that's been the backbone of grid monitoring for decades, and that system is called SCADA. SCADA has been the workhorse for a long, long time. I mean, it's not just in power grids, it's in all kinds of industrial settings. It basically calls up all the remote equipment, asks, hey, what's your voltage or what's your power flow, gathers all that info and sends it to a control room. And for years, it was the best we had. But, and this is a big but, it has a fundamental flaw. I love this analogy because it just makes it click. Imagine SCADA is like having a bunch of photographers stationed all over the country. Each one snaps a picture of their little part of the grid and then mails it to you. The photos all arrive at different times. By the time you get them all and lay them out on your table to see the big picture, the action has already moved on. You're always looking at the past, never the present. And this chart, this lays it all bare. Look at the data rate. With SCADA, you might get a fresh piece of data every, say, 5 seconds. With synchrophasors, you're getting up to 60 updates every single second. But the real magic is the timing. SCADA is asynchronous, a jumble of data from slightly different moments. Synchrophasors are GPS synchronized. Every single measurement is timestamped with insane accuracy. So we go from estimating what the grid is doing to actually measuring it live. So if SCADA is the old, out-of-sync photograph, what's the new vision? Well, imagine swapping those mailed-in photos for a live 4K video feed of the entire power grid with every angle perfectly synced. That right there is the world of synchrophasors. And the hero of this story, the piece of tech that makes it all happen, is the Phasor Measurement Unit, or PMU. You can just think of it as a hyper-advanced sensor. Now, a phasor sounds complicated, but it's just a way of describing the flow of an electrical wave. The PMU measures these waves. But here's the genius part. It uses a GPS signal to stamp every single measurement with an incredibly precise time. So here's how the whole system works. You have all these PMUs spread out across the grid, all taking measurements at the exact same instant. That synchronized data gets fired off to something called a phasor data concentrator, or PDC. Think of the PDC as the master director in a control room. It takes all these data feeds from hundreds of cameras and lines them up perfectly based on their timestamps. And the result? Bam! For the first time ever, operators see a single, unified, high-def picture of the entire grid in motion. And this is what that beautiful data looks like. It's a packet of pure information. In there, you've got the phasor measurements, the grid frequency, all the vital signs. It's like a complete electrical fingerprint for one specific spot on the grid, taken at one specific moment in time. And this is the raw intel that lets operators see trouble brewing before it actually boils over. Okay, so we've got this fire hose of super accurate, real-time data, awesome. But so what? What can you actually do with it? This is where the whole thing goes from being a really cool concept to being an absolute game changer. Oh, the applications are huge. You can watch for tiny wobbles in the system that could signal a coming blackout. You can analyze faults with pinpoint precision. But for me, the biggest deal is what this means for our energy future. You know, renewables like wind and solar, they're fantastic, but they're variable. The output goes up and down.
that used to be a massive headache for the grid. But with synchrophasors, operators can see those fluctuations instantly and respond, which lets us bring way more clean energy onto the grid safely.
And this quote, I know it sounds a little academic, but it gets right to the heart of the matter. That phrase, voltage phase angle difference, think of it like two people rowing a boat. If they're perfectly in sync, the boat glides forward. If they get out of sync, things get wobbly and unstable. It's the same for the grid. This measurement tells operators exactly how in sync different parts of the grid are. We used to have to guess at this. Now we know. We can measure it.
So let's zoom out for a second. This isn't just about a new piece of hardware. This is a fundamental shift in how we manage our energy. And if you want to know where the future is heading, well, a good rule of thumb is to just follow the money.
Look at that number, a growth rate of almost 12% year after year. That's not just a blip, that's a powerful trend. That's the market screaming that this isn't some niche experiment anymore. This is becoming the new standard, the bedrock of the modern smart grid.
And this chart just puts that growth into dollars and cents. The market size is on track to more than double in just 7 years, from 300 million to nearly 650 million. That's the engine that's paying for all these new PMUs to get installed all over the world. Now, let's be real. It's not all a walk in the park. This stuff isn't cheap. The upfront cost to install the hardware and the communication networks is a real hurdle. And here's the other big one: cybersecurity. When you're creating a live, detailed data stream of your nation's power grid, you better believe you need to lock it down tight. It's not an afterthought. It's priority number one. So let's bring it all home. We started by asking why our grid was flying blind. Well, synchrophasors have given it 20/20 vision, high-definition, real-time vision. And that leaves us with a really exciting question. With these powerful new eyes, with this unprecedented level of control, are we finally getting ready to build the grid of the future? One that's not only more stable, but that can truly handle the wild, dynamic ride of 100% renewable energy? It's a future that's finally actually coming into view.